Hello again, this is George Farner with the series Another Look At. We explore Bible truths for the purpose of being more established in our faith. Today I want to look at the subject of grace. Grace is another one of those subjects in the Bible that is really quite large. I want to start out today in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse number 10, where we read, "Each one of us has received a special gift. Employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God." Now, manifold isn't a word that we tend to use very much. One translation actually says multifaceted grace. One of the things that you'll find as you study the scriptures, as you read through the scriptures, is that the word grace is used a number of different ways. Early in my Christian experience, I always heard grace defined as favor. But one of the things that I discovered was that as I studied the Bible more and more, context tends to drive how we use words, and we see how those words are defined, how those words are applied. You can look at the original language, but you can also see it in English translations. And I found that this verse really summed up what grace is, that it is multifaceted. Like a precious gem, a diamond that's been cut with many facets. It depends on what direction you look at it from what you actually see. That's the word that he's using. He's saying multifaceted grace. One of the aspects I want to look at today, though, is I want to look at grace from the standpoint of enablement or empowerment. First verse I want to look at is Ephesians chapter 2, verse number 8. This is a common verse, one that you're familiar with. He says, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God." By grace. Now, regardless of how you're defining grace here, whether you see it as favor, or whether you see it as ability, or whether you see it as enablement, or whether you see it as the disposition of God, and all of those are used contextually throughout the New Testament. He says, "For by grace are you saved." Well, salvation required energy. It required the payment of our sin, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the transformation of the inner person that you are, causing you to be born again. For by grace has got to go beyond simply just favor. There's got to be empowerment there. And we can see that in a number of other places. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter number 15. And this is the Apostle Paul talking about his own life and transformation. Verse number 10. He says, "But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace toward me did not prove to be vain or non-working. But I labored even more than all of them," referring to the other apostles. He is reciting his accomplishments here to a certain extent. And he is talking about how that grace enabled him to do it. The last part of the verse, he says, "I labored more than all of them, yet not I, but the grace of God with me." He has to be speaking of something more than just favor, or even only God's attitude. And again, those things are involved. But he's using it as an enablement. And he does in a number of places in the New Testament. Ephesians 3, 7, and 8, Romans 12, 3, Romans 15, a number of places that we don't have time to look at now. But he views grace as this ability, this willingness of God, this power, this enablement to accomplish certain things, and also for God to help us, to strengthen us. Let's look at another one here, Romans 5. And I really like this one because I think it gives us good insight into the purpose of grace. You know, God's grace, God's willingness to use his power for us, to us, in us, through us. Verse number 17. Romans 5, he says, "For if by the transgression of one," referring to Adam, "death reigned through that one, much more, those who receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness will reign in life through one, Jesus Christ." So grace here, he says, is the ability to reign. It enables us to reign. We receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness, and we reign in life by one, Jesus Christ. So grace isn't just a passive, and I don't mean to sound sacrilegious or anything. It's not just God smiling at you. It goes beyond that. Again, it's his willingness, his ability, his desire, his everything that he has to use it on our behalf. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that sometimes we look at grace as this passive thing. Oh, God's grace is sufficient for me. And we use it in connection with going through a trial or what we might call suffering. We use it as the Lord is going to help me. And that is not even close to the picture of the New Testament. The picture of the New Testament is one of enablement. It's one of power. It's one of reigning. It's one where God does everything he can. He brings his resources to bear for our benefit in saving us, in helping us, in healing us, and guiding us, and strengthening us. Think about this verse again. Much more, they which receive abundance of grace. Now, he creates a contrast here, and I'm going to back up and let's look at it. He says, for if by the transgression of one, Adam's sin, death reigned through that one. Well, everything went badly wrong. Once Adam and Eve disobeyed God, committed treason, lost their authority, lost their dominion, things went really bad. He said, for as bad as things were because of that one sin, much more, in other words, he's presenting a comparison. He's saying, because of that sin, things were really bad and death came upon all. And he means spiritual death, physical death, death in every form. But then he says, much more though, much more, they which receive abundance of grace. That's us, believers, which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one Jesus Christ. Reign, not precipitation, but reign like a king, R-E-I-G-N, reign in life. In other words, if you're reigning, you're not being stepped on. You're the one overcoming. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't troubles and challenges in life. It's an imperfect world, and sometimes we make bad decisions, and sometimes people are sinful, etc. There's different reasons. But he says that because of grace, we can reign in this life by one Jesus Christ. Grace is a really difficult word to kind of get your mind and your heart around because it implies and provides so many things. But there's one thing that I want to look at here after that exhortation. Let's look at Hebrews 4:16. This is a common verse. Many people are familiar with it. If you're not, this will bless you. There's something here, though, that's interesting that I want to share, and I believe it'll strengthen your faith. It'll help you. He says, therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Find grace to do what? Find grace to tolerate? No. Find grace to just suffer until the end? No. Find grace to what? Help. And the word help, the way it's used in the New Testament, is a lot stronger than we might use it in English. Now in English, there's strength to it. If you're carrying something, it's a large table and you say, will you help me? Two people can help one another and the two of them can do what one alone cannot do. But it's even stronger than that in the New Testament in that it comes across as this ability. Now, I'd encourage you to go read all of Hebrews 4. It's talking about the children of Israel entering the promised land and how they failed to enter the promised land. Failed to enter the promised land. And right on the end of the account of why they failed in trial to get beyond that trial and enter into the promised land, he says, but for us, we have a faithful high priest. Let us therefore come confidently, boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy. Mercy is for forgiveness of sin, for doing it wrong, but obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Are you in a time of trial? Is there a challenge there? Because one of the things that happens to us is that when the pressure is on us, if we're not careful, we resort to our old methods of dealing with pressure. We resort to sin, regardless of what that was for you or whatever. But now, in this case, he says we can obtain mercy and we can find the grace that we need. Timely help. Find the grace that we need. Come to the Lord with the trial. Come to the Lord with the pressure. Forgiveness is available, but not just forgiveness. Not just forgiveness. Enablement to overcome. Let us come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. May you find grace. I hope you were blessed by this. As it says in Ephesians 1, may the eyes of our understanding be enlightened. In Colossians 2, may we be established in the faith.